the rumor time process, and I came across this quote: behind every behavior is a belief.
Whatever setting you go to, whether you're at church, whether you're at school, whether you may be having
I was able to analyze a little bit more.
Bringing about real positive
in order
changes.
For me to be effective, I have to be reflective. And this training
I gather an appreciation for reflecting. And I
take it from just something that's inside to getting it in a tangible form, getting it out from
fulfilling and rewarding to see the kids who coming and they sincerely growth in them. They became more reflective in their thinking, to see children grow and not just see but to be a part of it.
What I have learned in camp about rumor time is that it's a process for solving problems we face in our lives.
My stress, and then I begin to enjoy and spend time on the things that really make me happy.
I recommend this training to all age, from kindergarten.
Before you do that thing that you'll regret, or say that thing.
If you breathe and think, you should have this training. I would recommend this to everyone.
Well, hello everyone. How is everyone today? I am Dr. Laria, and we are so excited to be here today on Monday, February 13, 2023, to kick off our relationships. Are you Valentine ready? And we're going to find out at the end of this session today, at the end of this podcast, you will be asking yourself that question in a very reflective way that's going to help you transform your life, renew your mind, and help to create a safer community within your own homes. So I'm Dr. Laria, one of the co-hosts for the Access Room and Time Conversations podcast. The rest of the team is going to introduce themselves.
Now, hello, everyone. It's always good to be back, and I'm so excited about our conversation today and our guests. We'll dive in just a few minutes later. I am Dr. Geneva Fleming, and I bring you greetings from South Carolina. Looking forward to you being engaged with us today.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Vanessa Kelly-Brew, and I am one of the hosts. I am bringing you greetings from Elkhart, Indiana, the city with the heart. So because I am from the city with the heart, I am definitely looking forward to our discussion today with Keith and Naomi. So welcome.
Thank you very much.
And we have with us the most amazing guest, and they're going to introduce themselves. We can't wait to dive into this discussion.
Hi, I'm Keith, and this is Naomi.
We're here in South Carolina.
Correct.
South Carolina in the house, in the house, in the house. All right. So you know how we start our program every second and fourth Mondays. And so if we can get on the screen our mission statement, you know, we're celebrating our 10-year anniversary, and we want to do I forgot. Let's go back to one slide. Let's do our room time prayer. Yes. All right. Dear Heavenly Father, thank you for this day and for this Access Room Time Conversations podcast. I thank you for allowing us to be chosen to be here because we are special and we matter to you. I pray that you will help us to recognize, understand, manage, express, and reflect on our thoughts, interactions, mindsets, and emotions that are helpful, kind, wise, uplifting, and courageous. I pray that all who watch and listen now and in the future would experience renewed minds, transformed lives, and they would be empowered to create safer communities wherever they are. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
All right, let's go to our mission. Dr. G.
Yes. So the mission for GC Scored is to renew minds, transform lives, and create safer communities.
All right, next.
Keep it rolling.
Vanessa.
So, what we do is we talk about social emotional wellness. And what is that? It is a person's ability to recognize, understand, manage, express, and reflect on their thoughts, interactions, mindsets, and emotions as it relates to self, others, and situations. So, as you effectively utilize these skills, you become equipped and empowered to successfully navigate daily activities such as loving, learning, earning, relationship building, problem solving, and adapting to the demands of growth and development.
Awesome. Next. So, what is the rumor time process? For those of you who are viewing us for the first time, the rumor time is an acronym. All right, it's an acronym. Recognize is the first R. Understand, manage, express, reflect on your thoughts, interactions, mindsets, and emotions. So, rumor time is an acronym. Let's get to the definition of the rumor time process now. So the rumor time process is a 5-step, culturally responsive, social emotional problem solving strategy that helps individuals move from a position of within ourselves and interpersonal imbalance to intra and interpersonal balance, and from unconscious living to conscious living. So that is the rumor time process. All right. Hey, we also want to let you know that currently GC Squad is celebrating this year, 2023, we're celebrating our 10-year anniversary. And every month we have I think we need to give it up, give it up, give it up. All right. And we have every month we are dropping courses. You like how I use the lingo for the young people. We're just dropping courses, right? So this month, February, guess what? The title of the course for February is Checked Out, How to Check Back in to Your Relationships. How to check back into your relationships. These courses are only $10 an hour. The courses are 2 hours long, and you can do it at your own pace wherever you are. If right before bed you want to do 10 minutes, you can do that however you want to do it. 2 hours, $20. You are going to gain way more than $20 worth of knowledge, changing in your mindsets, and your life is going to be transformed because of it. So many of us are checked out of our relationships and still occupying the same space. And we're going to hear more about that in our conversation. Here is how to check back in and enjoy being in the same space. Sign up and check into our courses today. Go to www.everypeacematters.com and follow the prompts to the courses on our website. Again, everypeacematters.com. Click on the 10th anniversary, or you can go to our store. Every tab you click on our website will lead you to our courses. All right.
Okay.
What else do we have that we need to talk about? That's it. Let's get into. Let's just dig in. So the first thing we want to do is ask Keith and Naomi, what was their marriage like before the rumor time process? Tell us, just go to town.
Sure. Before the rumor time process, what our version of communicating was not actually communicating, because as we've come to learn over time, just because people are yelling, screaming, or saying it back, but that's not actually effectively communicating. And from my standpoint, I came from a background of very conflict avoidance. So anytime anything popped up that was not really where I felt it was going to go, the way I would desire it to go, I would try to pivot. I would try to avoid having the conversation. And so it was very difficult, especially for my wife who was exhibiting a lot of emotion. And whenever I see her exhibiting emotion, I would want to run away because I had not, I hadn't actually had the knowledge, the training how to really deal with emotion. And especially as a male, you're always taught to not to show emotion of any sort in any kind of situation. So that actually was making it even worse.
Okay. I'm gonna let Naomi, you go ahead, and then I'm gonna come back. I'm gonna circle back to Keith.
So like he said, it was a lot of yelling and screaming, and me, I was just break things when I became so frustrated. I played, would just stomp out of the house because I felt like I was not being heard. I felt like he wasn't understanding where I was coming from, what I wanted him to address, and he would either not talk, shut down.
Oh yeah.
It was just frustrating, and I felt like, like what did I get myself into?
Yes.
Do I really want to be here? But it was not a very good situation with our relationship and communicating. It was horrible, to the point where I decided I wanted to get a divorce. I don't know how many times I told him I wanted that.
So Keith, you talked about being conflict avoidant.
Yes.
Tell us how did that show up, right? For the regular person in their relationships, and we're talking about married. Keith and Naomi are married, but this goes across all different types of relationships, right?
Yes.
How did you avoid conflict? What did you do? What were your behaviors?
Well, the behavior, once we got into any kind of conversation, verbal, and it was, again, it started to go, if it wasn't in alignment, like something that we were agreeing on or something where we had a difference of opinion, I would actually shut down or maybe try to, leave the room or end the conversation or pivot and change the topic and go to something else. Or if it was something that even might need my attention, I would try to actually, try to lower the temperature, if you will, and what it is that we're discussing, but really not want to be a confrontational, trying to avoid that conflict, because again, if I do that, then it's going to really escalate and it's going to really lead to maybe even might lead to physical altercation. One never knows but things can spiral out of control if they continue on a certain path.
Right.
But personally, I would like to add to that, and I think probably for a lot of people too, we're coming into relationships with a lot of, if I can use the word, baggage, if I will, from the way we were raised. And so in the situation with my parents, my mom was extremely conflict avoidance, and my dad, on the other hand, was very aggressive. So I think growing up, I actually observed her behavior and actually picked up a lot of that as a young boy growing up. I spent a lot of time with her and then took that into my adult life. So I've since then actually tried to course correct, if I can use that word. Yeah, so therefore now, so that's not the case as much today as it was in past years. Not just in relationship with my wife, but in all aspects, whether it's work, siblings, or just in day-to-day communication across a wide spectrum. I've gotten extremely better at it since the room time process.
Since the room time process. Awesome. And so I want to I'm going to come to you, Naomi, but I want to restate what Keith said, because I think it is so critical for people to hear themselves in what Keith has just said. Yes. What is conflict avoidance? He would try to physically move away from the conversation.
Right.
He would shut down. I want people to, if you're listening and watching, think about you. Don't think about the other person. Think about how you show up in your relationships. And something here is going to hook into that part of you that is like, oh my goodness. He avoided by walking away, shutting down. What else did you say? Trying to go
trying
ahead.
to change the topic.
Yes.
Yeah, quite, you know, at every opportunity, or if it was, or yeah, quite a lot. Or if it was a situation that actually needed a lot of attention or needed, you know, us to actually to be dealt with, I try to, you know, it's using this phrase, kick the can down the road.
Yes.
You know,
Yes.
you know, try and say, oh, you know, we'll get to that next week, or, you know, push it off later, and fully well knowing that it was something I wouldn't even want to entertain at a later date, just trying to, you know, not just quick kicking it as far as I can, as I can possibly.
I would always get the can back,
Yes.
and he was just like,
that's right. Keep kicking it down the road.
Yeah.
Well, you know, the question I wanted to ask, we dove right into, you know, painting a picture of some challenges, but I'm sure you all didn't get married with the foundation of challenges on your mind. So can you share with us, how long have you been married, and what that was like? You know, paint that picture before challenges. What was that like?
Before we got married?
No. When you got married, your initial part of your marriage, you know, you're all in love, you're coming together, you had these dreams about what life would be like. Tell us some about that, and then share also how long you guys have been married.
You go first on this one.
Okay. So we've been married for 35 years, and the first year was great, you know, and then we had our first kid, and it was a daughter, and that was fine. And then all the challenges started. I had to spend so much time with my daughter, and he felt like he was being ignored. I said, well, I'm only one person. You know, that's how it first started up. I had to spend time. I worked. I was a nurse. I had to be a mom. I had to be a wife. And I was like, okay, I'm used to just being husband and wife. Now we have all these additional things. And how do you prioritize? And I'm trying to find when would be the best time in the day for me to have some time for me? When would be the best time to have time for him? And when would be the best time to have time for my kid and our child? And it was very overwhelming for me. And that's when it all started, because I felt like I was becoming overwhelmed. I didn't sign up for this. No one told me that having a kid would be this taken up and time consuming. No one told me how to, you know, because it wasn't something you talked about growing up. You just heard that you get married and you have a family and everything just, you know, lovey-dovey. So it was like, no one said, okay, when you have kids, and no one told us how to do it. No one told us how to, you know, prioritize our lives. And so that led to one thing, and then financial issues and work issues and all of this. And eventually we were at each other's throat because we didn't know how to come together and communicate what was going on. We did not know how to communicate our feelings. We just expressed our feelings in unhealthy ways, harmful and hurtful ways towards each other. And that built up walls. So it just started to almost like derail, literally. And I'm like, I thought marriage would be different. I thought we would make a difference, that we wouldn't be like our parents, that this would happen to us.
Now,
all the other little things.
Right. So Naomi, Keith shared some about his background and his parents. So what can you share about your background and your parent, the environment you came out of, that may have influenced your thoughts about marriage and how you would respond in that relationship?
Yes. So both Keith's parents and my parents, our moms, experienced the same type of, you know, I guess in that culture, in that environment. They were both passive females, very low key, didn't, you know, fight back, didn't, you know, stand up or anything. What the man says goes. And I looked at mom and I'm like, I am not going to be like that. No way in the world I'm going to let anybody tell me what to do and how to do. So I always had these walls that were already built up in myself and how I pursue or how my mindset about marriage was and interacting. But I didn't think I would have to utilize that because this was the most wonderful man in the world that I had married, and I didn't think I would have to. He was not like my dad. He was quiet. He was not, I thought it was very attractive. He's not, fighty and feisty and just, verbally abusive at times. So I didn't think I have to deal with that, and I didn't. But then it became a problem because then when I needed him to now stand up and take control and take charge, he wasn't. And I'm like, what is going on? What have I married here? And I felt like I had to now assume that role, and he was intimidated with that role because then he said, I reminded him of his dad because I was exhibiting that same type of take charge behavior, which he didn't like with his dad in his history. And so it was conflicted because then I saw the same behavior with my mom, but then I had a different mindset on how I was going to, how it affected me compared to him. So we had the same experience, but a different take on how to interact with them and how to deal with them.
So basically, you both recreated your families of origin in now your family. That's basically what we did. That's what you did.
Right.
I did. We both did.
We both did. Yeah.
Right.
But we didn't recognize that. We didn't know that that's what we were doing.
Absolutely not.
At all. It was like we didn't even recognize that what was happening.
Yeah.
And we were blaming each other for the problem in the marriage. And it was, I don't know, it was horrible.
And you brought into the marriage the things that you didn't want. And I'm sure you brought that you wanted, but you brought things that you didn't want that unconsciously.
That's it.
Yes.
Right.
Was framing how you were going to now create your community which is your marriage.
Right.
And so that's one of the things in the definition of the Rumor Time process. We talk about moving from unconscious to conscious living.
Correct.
And so prior to the Rumor Time process, you were living unconsciously in regard to conflict avoidance, in regard to your family of origins,
influence,
influence and their markers, right? The markers of your family of origin. You were recreating that in an unconscious way.
Exactly. Exactly.
What do you want to say, Keith? It looks like you wanted to say something else.
Oh no! I was actually just agreeing with what you're saying, because when you get into a marriage, you at that time you're not realizing how much of your background you're bringing into the marriage. You're saying, this is someone I love, I want to spend the rest of my life with. We can have this awesome life, and neither side is really looking at, hey, you're bringing a lot of those experiences that you had from your parents and the way that they dealt with things, and no doubt that's where you're probably going to deal with things. And again, it doesn't, like they would say, it doesn't surface at the beginning because the old marital bliss and everything is wonderful. But as soon as the bills start to pile up, as soon as the kid diapers needs to be changed, you're working double shift in the job and you're stressed and everything else. When all of that comes to play, if you hadn't received the proper training and information, you'll find yourself reverting right back to the way that your parents manage. You're going to manage that same way if you don't have the right information, right knowledge.
Absolutely. Vanessa.
Yeah, so I'm just wondering, so this is rumor time.
I think we need to still stay with pre a little longer. I think there's some stuff we can mine from that. So Vanessa, focus still on the pre. Some of the things that Naomi was saying, if you can tap into that, Vanessa.
Well, so one of the things that you all talked about was in the beginning of the marriage, how things were blissful.
Absolutely.
And then when everything started piling up, there was like this conflict that started happening. But what I am wondering about is how you dealt with conflict before marriage.
Okay.
We didn't have any, right?
Right. Well, you know what? If they were there, because we were because we were in the love, not that we're not now, but some of the you totally don't recognize them. I mean, there's so many things about your partner pre-marriage that if you go back and play the tape recorder in your mind and honestly say, you know what? I did see that. It was there, but we overlooked it. It was there. I saw the signs. I knew, but it was just it made a conscious decision not to.
It was attractive that he was a quiet, nice gentleman.
He was quiet and nice.
Yes, I thought it was very attractive. I was like, because it was different than my dad's.
Yes.
And I love that.
Yes.
And it was like, I want you to be able to switch that button and become, like my dad when I need you to be to resolve a situation, because that's how I thought situations were supposed to be resolved by a man. Being aggressive about it, being, because that was all I saw. That was all he saw, but he didn't like it. So I thought that was the way a man was supposed to resolve a problem. You could be nice and quiet and all that and gentle, but I think when it comes to challenging, I don't have that mindset now. But when I came into the marriage, early in the marriage, I feel, okay, he's going to stand up and be a man. He was in the military. He knows how to be a military man and all that. And I don't have to tell him what to do. That part of him would just come out, because I thought it was something a man should be able to do to resolve a situation, because that was all I knew from my upbringing and my conditioning, which was unhealthy. And he wasn't that. He still is not.
I'll quickly add to that. Yeah, I have a more stoic approach. So when situations, circumstances occur, I try not to get worked up, get emotional. I try to find a way to resolve it in a healthy manner without getting aggressive, or without having things escalate. Try to solve it in the most logical, reasonable, calm, reasonable.
And so what we did initially, we were recognizing, just for others to understand how this rumor time process works and how the rumor time process has revolutionized Naomi and Keith's marriage. So we first recognized, and what they did, they were recognizing, not knowing, right? This is pre rumor time.
Right.
But for the audience, I want you to see what we're doing. We're going through the steps of the rumor time process with them in their story. And this is something we want you to be able to do. And you will be able to learn more about that if you take our course, Checked Out, how to check back into your relationships.
Yes.
Go to the website, everypeacematters.com/ISEE. And so they recognized their thinking. They recognized how they were behaving. They were throwing things, and Keith was walking away, kicking the can down the proverbial street, right?
Yes.
Naomi was breaking stuff, valuable things that she loved. I'm sure many gifts were broken, right?
Yes.
And the stove.
Yes, and the stove. He said, he reminded me, I broke the stove.
You broke the stove. You were unhealthy. Serious. You were
totally unhealthy. You had to buy a brand new stove.
That's right.
Brand new stove, and you broke it.
I broke it.
Yeah, right. So, and I'm sure many people can relate to this discussion here today. And so we recognize the thoughts, we recognize the interactions, we recognize the mindsets, we recognize the emotions. We also went into understanding, where we're digging deeper. And that's when we started talking about the family of origin, the messages that we got from those environments, from the homes where we were raised.
And the community too.
True.
The community, that was like, there was this machoism that was going on in the community. You know, the community, men ruled, women were subservient. They had to, you know, most of the women did not work outside the home. They were right when they grew up. So it was something like a cultural way of managing family. So it was all you knew. It was not just your household. You also knew others who were doing the same thing. So it seemed normal, even though it was abnormal.
Normal, right? So it was culturally
abnormal.
It was cultural conditioning. It was cultural conditioning.
Yes,
it was cultural conditioning that caused that influence. So it wasn't just the home. It wasn't. It was the community as well.
The society.
And the society. And so we dug deeper into the home, the society, and the community so that we can understand. So now, anything else you guys want to share with our viewing and listening audience regarding recognizing and understanding?
Well, that was when we recognized that we couldn't continue that way.
Okay.
And so, I mean, we went to counseling. It kind of helped, but it didn't really change our behavior significantly because we kind of was just not knocking counseling. But what I'm saying is we talked about what we were going through. We talked about some things that we could try, but we did not have like a systemic, something like that's there that we could use in our everyday life when we can't get back to the therapist and the counseling. So yeah, in between, what do we do?
Right.
Yeah.
And that is key.
That's a very key piece, if I could just speak, because another quote, another very accurate quote is that we utilize is that, and I'm looking at my cup that I'm drinking from, okay? So behind every behavior is a belief. So Naomi, you stated you went to counseling. Yeah, it helped a little bit, but it didn't change your behavior.
Right.
Your behavior didn't change because your beliefs didn't change.
It didn't.
Absolutely. So that's a key piece, I think, that we need to point out in the rumor time process is the importance of digging deeper, drilling back, and looking at what's the root of that behavior.
And going to counseling, I did not see myself and my history and my past, my roots as being the problem. I was still seeing my husband as being the problem and that he needed to change. I didn't see where I needed to change. I didn't see it. I thought I was doing what I was supposed to do and he was supposed to do what he was supposed to do. So that mindset was so strong, it also affected how we continued to communicate and interact.
Right.
Yeah. And how were you? What were some of your thoughts or even feelings at that time, during those times, about Naomi, Keith?
Well, I think looking back at it now, you go into counseling so much so pointing the finger. You know, you're saying it's the other person's fault, the other person saying it's your fault, and so you spend a lot of the counseling time just with each side trying to hammer the other side, which is we know is not really effective. It's blame. Well, it's blame. You know, a lot of it is blame. Well, it's my wife's fault. If she would do A, B, C, D, then this would occur. If she would, it's always more. Putting 90% of it on the partner and not really, looking internally and seeing, well, hey, maybe there's some things that I need to do or change, and so it's not just all about the partner.
I was looking for sympathy for me. I wasn't looking for sympathy for him. I was looking for someone to be on my side because for so long I didn't have that. That was what I was looking for. I wasn't looking to change myself or change my thoughts or any of that. I still loved my husband. I wanted us to get along. I just didn't know how. And I didn't know how to reach him because I felt devalued for so long growing up. And now it just was feeling uncomfortable now that I wasn't around the family where it was being done and being acceptable or accepted or seemed to be the norm. So now I'm away from all that family and I'm like, this isn't right. It doesn't feel good. This can't be right. This can't be the the only thing to a marriage. And so this is a marriage, why are people getting married? And I didn't want to be a part of that. And so that was one of the things that bugged me a lot, or that, you know, caused a lot of emotional distress for me, because I wanted sympathy, I wanted empathy, I wanted someone to finally hear me, because no, I haven't been heard for so long, neither by my parents or by my husband. I feel like it was still continuing now that the honeymoon was over.
Right.
So I wanted to be heard, I wanted to be valued, I wanted to be appreciated. And what that looked like for me was not what that looked like for him. And he didn't know how to give me what I needed, and I didn't know how to express to him what I needed from him.
Yeah.
Because through all the shouting, it just was impossible.
So help us understand the transition, the help now. So how did you even learn about Roomatime?
Well, I heard about Roomatime through you, because you were my professor when I was in college getting my MSW, and you introduced me to it. And at first I was very impressed, because I'm about gardening and stuff like that, and it had the cultivating seed system. That was what drew me to it, because I'm passionate about gardening. It's sort of like a therapeutic thing for me. That was what was my go-to to when I wanted to get away from it all. And so, and then you approached me again and told me that there was a CEPA training. And so once I got the CEPA training, I was completely hooked. I started utilizing it, and I began to see myself for the first time. Something I have never been able to do effectively, because I always felt ashamed, or I always felt that I couldn't bear it at the time, seeing and recognizing myself as, you know what, this is what you've gone through, that I've been through abuse, and how do you deal with that? So I had to deal with a lot of things that finally clicked and said, well, so that's why you have these thoughts. That's why you think this way. That's why you respond to people and express yourself this way. So when I recognized that and began to understand that, I actually cried. I actually cried because I finally, for the first time, recognized that I was broken. I was a broken person, and I needed that healing. And I cried, and I went to him, and I was crying, and he finally broke, and he was able to finally understand. And I said, this is the first time I've really been able to connect with myself using the Roomatime process, and it was a safe way to do it. I can dig in when I felt ready. I didn't have to wait for an appointment in a doctor's office or a therapist's office. I could address it, and then I could sit and write it out and think about the things that, you know, were such a bother to me, that had shaped me into this broken person. So I was all these broken pieces. And so that's what I brought to the relationship. The broken pieces, looking for him who was also broken to mend that he couldn't mend.
Yeah.
Girl.
So the Roomatime process did that for me, and I still utilize it today. And I taught it to him because he saw the change in me.
Absolutely.
And he saw the way I respond to him, the way I talk to him. I got calmer. I was more respectful. I was more appreciative. You know, all those things I became. And then he, in turn, wanted to learn more about it too. And he says, and I heard him started saying things like recognize, understand. Like, oh, I'm teaching him without even knowing I'm teaching him.
Knowing that you're teaching.
So
go ahead.
That was transformative. That was transformative. Thanks for
So
sharing.
Keith, what is your experience about when the Roomatime process was introduced to you? How did it change your world?
Sure, because for so long, the method that I've used to manage, you know, circumstances, situations, stress, whatever that has occurred, has always been, as I've told you before, avoidance. So now, when situations, circumstances happen, I need to recognize. So instead of trying to run away, you know, you don't have to be overly confrontational, but you still need to, you know, have the conversations, even if they're uncomfortable. So you need to have those conversations, get the different viewpoints, you know, from the other party and yourself, without shouting, without screaming, but where, you know, each side can let's be understand each other, And then once you do, then try to manage whatever it is that situation deems necessary for you to manage. And then, expressing it in a very helpful way, not in a way where you're trying to demean the person or speak down or belittle, but expressing it in a way where you're being respectful. And you're really, like Nima was saying earlier, sometimes it's going to be where we're actually going to agree, and some might not necessarily agree wholeheartedly, but we've done it in such a healthy way that a lot of time one of us will come back. And a lot of times, and say, you know what, that thing that we talk about, I didn't see it that way initially, but now that we've actually discussed and brought it to the forefront and thought about it, yes, I think the way that you presented is the right way to go, and something is vice versa, the other way around. So it's definitely been extremely beneficial from a marriage standpoint. We use it at work. We use it with, again, siblings. And surprisingly, without knowing, using it actually when you day-to-day interaction, when you just on your travels, you're shopping, you're in business on a normal day-to-day, and believe it or not, it pops in. Instead of acting out, instead of jumping out of emotion, he said, no, let me do this methodically. Recognize, you go through the steps, and you'd be surprised a lot of times when you do that, the person that you're interacting with, they actually come around.
Yes.
Without them knowing that you're actually going through these steps to get to actually move things in a certain way. They actually come around, and where the starting point was, they end up a little bit closer to where it is that the goal you're trying to strive to get to.
Awesome.
This is so awesome. Keith, a piece of statement that you mentioned, when we first got connected this morning, you talked about the importance of being honest. You said, if you're honest with yourself, because we were talking about particularly like men or males, the way they are grown and taught, men don't cry, or, whatever those things are, you got to be macho. And you said, if you're honest with yourself, talk to us a bit about the importance of honesty with yourself.
That is very tough from a male perspective, because you don't want to be ostracized by the group. If you think about it from the mammal standpoint, you don't want to be that single lion or that single wolf, and then and the group is over here. So a lot of times, you kind of want to blend in, you want to belong, and you don't want to stand out, and so you're not honest with yourself, because you want to fit in. We're humans, and in that part of us that we want to fit in, want to belong, and so a lot of times we're just not honest. And then, but the harmful part is you keep that lie going into adult life, and it perpetuates, and then it's at some point in life it can really blow up in your face, and it can just show up in your marriage, and it can end in divorce, or just a lot of different ways.
That is so very important. I wanted you to articulate that, and that's another feature of the rumor time process. Is that we must, and like Naomi, you've said it quite well, honestly and accurately reflect on ourselves. Look at us before we look at the other person. But we got to be honest with ourselves in doing that. We can't keep the lie going and expect it to be effective.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct, Doctor.
Nice.
So Keith,
yes,
I want to go back there again, because I want you to share with, especially the men. I want you to, because we're heavily female here, but I want you to speak again to the men about how do they. What was the process you went through to become honest? What is the process, or what were your first thoughts? Well, how did you then interact? What mindset did you have to change? And what were the emotions that may have flooded you to almost derail you from being honest and being accurate?
Well, for me personally, I think it was the point where I realized I was going to lose my marriage. And it was that junction that if I was going to lose my marriage, and I had to ask myself, man, is this what I really want after so many years, my lovely wife and this this family that we've built together, and am I going to actually just allow that to am I going to squander that? And so at that point, I think for me was when I decided, hey, I have to be honest. I have to, forget about, trying to be a part of that group or trying to be what society says that males are or what males should be. And then stand in agreement with my wife and really be one. But if you're from a biblical background, like the scripture says, where the two shall be really become one. And so then it's okay that if she comes up with something and that's the better way to go, then that's the better way to go. Not because I'm the male means we're gonna do it this way. I have to go a certain direction. Because she has good ideas, I have good ideas, and it doesn't have to always go a certain way or be a certain way. And so I think for me it was a point when I need to salvage my marriage. I need to be honest, and that was when it really hit home for me personally.
Yes, because I told him, that song, If You Don't Know Me By Now, I was like this. And I was singing it to him. And I'm like, if you don't know me by now, you will never. I said, it's been too many years. And if you don't know by now, then let's not try to find out any other. So that's really
just keep it moving, huh?
Yeah, just keep it moving. And then I stopped and I looked at him, and I used the Valentine process, and I really looked at him and I recognized that my husband really did not know. He didn't understand what needed to be done. And so I felt at that moment, I felt kind of sad, and I felt bad for him. And I really wanted to help him to understand, because I see now he really wanted to understand. And I really wanted to understand him. And he really wanted to make our marriage work. And that was one of the things we did. I really sat down. We cried. I mean, it was very touching. It was very humbling, because we realized that both of us matter. Both of us are going through something. And he needed help as a man coming from his perspective. I now put myself in his place. I recognized what he had to go through to get to this point and how that must be affecting him. And so it was almost like a calming came into our relationship, into our interaction. We were more caring, we were more loving, more soothing, more helpful to each other, no matter what it is. So I looked at him. It was I no longer wanted to yell at him. I wanted to really be there for him and support him in whatever he was having, whatever the challenges were, whatever the weaknesses were. That was what I felt I had to do. That's not, and I recognize that my mindset changed, because that's not being, subservient. Right. That's being a mate. Right. That's being one. He wants what I want. I want what he wants. We both want what each other wants. How do we go about getting that? How do we go about coming together united? And we started being more respectful, more appreciative of each other and everything that we do, even the simple things. If he makes me breakfast, I'm like, oh my God, you made me breakfast. Thank you. And so, just stuff like that. He would come home, he would sneak up behind me and give me a hug, and I'm like, oh, I love you. Or he would write, with toothpaste on our bathroom window, I love you, before I get up, because he leaves before I do. And I'm like, oh, that's so sweet. Just little things. That's Valentine for me. He would go into our garden and take, cut some of the little roses or the little flowers and just bring it in and put it in there and leave a little love note. Just little things like that. Go kid. And so that's why we say we're Valentine Valentines every day, all year, because Valentine is not just today, February 13th, 14th, or, it's all year, because he's my Valentine all year. I'm his Valentine. So it's just, respect, that respect for each other, that, love for each other, and helping each other through whatever the challenges are, because he has a history and a story, and I have a history and a story. His response to that story is different than my response. So he helps me through my story, I help him through his story, and we both create our story.
Together. His story plus her story creates our story. Awesome.
It's a beautiful story.
It is a beautiful story. And
I embrace all the hard parts too,
on every part. There's a statement that I've coined. Another one of my quotes is, it's my story. I will tell it boldly without apology, whether it's good, bad, or ugly. It is my story, right? And so we appreciate you guys telling us your story. Vanessa, how could we now talk about managing, how they have managed now that we talked about prior to Rumor Time, we're talking about Rumor Time now. They are now into the Rumor Time process. They are Rumor Time Valentines. How are you managing, and what could you tell? Vanessa, could you take that question to the next level for me?
Well, I think you did a great job with that. But and I also want to, when you talk about how you are managing your emotions and this relationship, earlier in the conversation, you talked about bringing broken pieces into your relationship. And so, what I am wondering about is, because now you have Rumor Time and you've learned to communicate differently to get your needs met, I'm wondering about the difference that even your family, your children have seen. So, what is the difference that they have seen in your relationship? And how are you continuing to manage that even in your relationships with your children, so that in the future they learn how to communicate differently with their partners?
Well, I'll give an example. Right now, we still try to manage using the Rumor Time process, and we still utilize that with our children. Sometimes, and hear this, sometimes we still have problems with our children because they have their own stories. And we can't live their stories for them because they're grown. But what I love is the fact that they still will consult with us. If they're having a challenging situation that they cannot resolve, they still look to us to give them some Rumor Time advice about going that guidance. We don't tell them what to do. We just talk them through it so that they themselves can come up with what they need to do to manage what's best for them. For instance, if it gets to the point where they are not able to come up with something, a management tool or management strategy, then we will offer of maybe a few of them and then have them select which one would better resolve the situation for themselves or help them better manage it. But we try not to get involved. That does not say we don't get angry. Oh my God, we do, but we have Rumor Time process to help calm our emotions about it. Let's put it that way. We have a tool now. We have something that we can use when we said, my God, she just did that again. When is she gonna? So even that, we won't say that to them, but we talk ourselves, okay, Rumor Time process. Let's just reflect on my emotions about this. Why am I having this? Why is it so strong? Why is it feeling so, emotional about it? And then we'll talk about it, and then we just say, okay, let's go and have some tea, and we're done. We're not going to deal with it. We're not going to stress it. That's their story. We will leave them to resolve it. We've given them the tools to utilize to help them, and we just stand back and see what happens. So in that aspect, that's what we do. It doesn't. The Rumor Time process does not get rid of you having problems. It just creates a tool. The Rumor Time process does not prevent you from having problems. It just gives you the tools to resolve those problems. So does my husband get upset with me? Do I get upset with him? Yes. But no more breaking the stove where he has to go out and buy a new one. No more breaking plates. We can now come together at the table and says, and I could say, you know what you said to me, and I say just like that. Right. What you said to me, no yelling or screaming, really hurt me. And I said, do you know why it hurt me? I express myself
Right.
now better. Yes, more healthy way, less harmful, but more healthier way. I said, do you know why that hurt me? And he would do the same. He would come to me in his calm little voice that he always does. And he would say, and then I would we can have a dialogue.
Correct.
We don't,
Very healthy dialogue.
right. We don't have angry disagreements. We now have discussions. Rumor time discussions, okay?
Rumor time discussions.
Right. So we utilize that tool to help calm our emotions, to help us to better address and express our thoughts when we are interacting with each other, so that we could come up with better ways of understanding what everybody is going through, both of us, and help us to better manage it together. And then we can reflect on it and say, you know what, that was a great way that we handled that. And we sometimes can say, let's have some apple cider with that, because we did a great job doing it, you know.
That's right.
Things like that.
That's right.
That's right. That's right. That's awesome.
Good stuff.
You know, what would you, as we're coming to the close, what would you want, Keith, from a male perspective, and then Naomi from a female perspective? What would you want if somebody is on here for the first time, a man is on here, or somebody listens, a male listens in the future? What is that one message that you would want males in relationships to get from this?
I'll go first. Basically, again, take the acronyms just as they are. You don't have to reinvent the wheel. Recognize. I mean, that is so key. Recognize when you are, going, again, whether it's a verbal altercation, you're saying something, you're trying to get your point across, or where things are getting heated. And recognize first where that is. And then try to be more understanding to your spouse and her feelings, her thoughts, her emotion towards whatever it is. Because if you're having a discussion about something, that means if she's having some emotion about something, that means it's something that they invested in, something that they have very strong feeling to. So you just can't totally just dismiss it, ignore it. You can't kick it under, push it under the rug. It needs to be dealt with. So deal with it up front. Don't do like what I would do years past. And I, honestly, by so doing, the other person will appreciate that. And even if you don't come up with a solution that's probably 100% what they want in that particular discussion, they'll appreciate you actually dealing with it head on versus ignoring it or not showing them the respect that they truly are due. So recognize, try to be more understanding, and then once you do, just like it says, manage. Don't just leave it without don't just leave and walk away without try to be solution oriented. Okay, how can we best manage? And sometimes you may not have the solutions there on, but at least if you just make an effort to, okay, at least today we can do this, and we'll come back to it and we'll follow up, and then we can even advance and expand a little bit more.
There you go.
And then expressing a very healthy dialogue, just like it says, not demeaning, not putting the person down, not speaking down, but expressing a very healthy way, being respectful. And then again, that reflective is good. When you walk away from that situation, have that tape recorder going and reflect back. And then so that when they come back together again, you can have you have more dialogue, more discussions on how to solve the issues that plague us all.
Absolutely. Awesome. Naomi, what's your advice?
So my advice is sort of like twofold. Have room time discussions, okay? Not disagreements. Have room time discussions. One of the things that grow together, not grow apart. Become that, that tree. You're grafted into your husband is grafted into you, and you have this beautiful tree in this garden, and you want to take care of it. You want to cultivate it, you want to fertilize it, you want to use the rheumatoid process to make sure that the leaves are, if you see something on that tree that needs to be trimmed off, that shouldn't be there. There's nothing wrong in pruning that tree. There's nothing wrong in looking at your marriage. Remember that a marriage is two people that become one. So you're growing into becoming one. You're grafted into that tree, that one tree that's going to blossom. So you are that tree. So one of the things that I would say to couples, it's okay to disagree, but have healthy discussions. Use the room time process. Honestly, it helps you. Look at yourself, look at your wife, look at your husband, and you all just come together and do what you have to do to stay together if that's what you want. I usually like to say, if you don't have the information, if you don't know what you need to do in order to stay married, that's fine. There are ways you can find out how to do that through the room and time process. You recognize your thoughts about marriage. Sometimes that's the first key. What are your thoughts about marriage? You know, what is marriage to you? What was your cultural upbringing about marriage? You know, how do you view yourself? Because sometimes you are a reflection of your thoughts to your spouse. So how do you see yourself is how you're going to treat your spouse as well. Because if you don't know, remember, you're bringing lots of differences to the table as well as similarities to the table. So how you interpret that and how you understand that, I should say, would help you better manage the situation. I love my husband, and yes, okay. So we love each other. So I like to think about, find something. We always could find the bad, is what I want to say to people. We always find the bad in something. Always look to find the good every day of your life. Find one thing that you love about your spouse and let them know that. And build on that and let that be your guiding force as a Valentine. Your Valentine's every day of the year, not just Valentine's Day. Yeah. Okay. Every day you're a Valentine. Find something to give your Valentine, even if it's a hug. You know. Yes.
Almost like thank you guys. It's almost like having a Valentine mindset about your partner.
Exactly.
Yeah, because behind every behavior is a belief.
Right.
Yes.
And if you believe that this person matters, if you believe that you love this person, if you believe that this person is a part of your life, has been entrusted to you so that you both can grow together, then you're going to behave in a certain way.
Exactly.
So thank you.
Thank you both so much. I mean, this has
Very
been
welcome.
so inspirational. I mean, and we are looking at Rumor Time success here. You all do that every day with each other, and I love that. And I love, Keith, that you said don't just leave it, that you have to continue to work with
Absolutely.
it. And
Absolutely. Work in
Naomi,
progress.
yeah,
Work in
expressing that
progress.
you still have your challenges
Oh, yes.
as a married couple, but the
Yes.
two of you are working together and you are looking for things that you have in common, things that to highlight the beauty instead of looking for things that are challenging to you. And so what I wanted to do is just take a couple seconds here to read some of the comments from our Naomi. Yeah,
One
go
more
ahead.
thing.
Yeah.
I now see my husband's differences as being very attractive because it's something different. And so that's one of the way my mindset has changed. And I don't see his differences as being a challenge anymore. I see it as being, oh, that's different. That's very attractive.
Yeah.
So that is one of the things that I have not conditioned my mind to see that this is great. This is different than any other man that is done. I think it's attractive.
You have renewed your mind. You have renewed your mind. Yes. Yes.
Yeah. You want to read some of the comments, Vanessa?
Yeah. So first of all, we have Sharon who says, "Thank you both so much for sharing." And Patricia is saying, "Thank you, Naomi and Keith, for sharing. I know you have come a long way to get to this point of helping others. Thank you all." Sharon also says, "Great advice, Keith." And Catherine, this is a great interview on relationships that shows how Rumor Time works to heal and create a healthy relationship and mindset. Thanks for sharing your personal experiences. excellent interaction. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good, good.
And Naomi, not Naomi,
Loiselin
Loiselin.
is saying, Naomi and Keith, I admire your commitment to your marriage. Rumor Time works. God bless.
Thank
both.
you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Awesome. All right. Well, we have gone over our time, but guess what? It's our show, and we can go however long we want to, right? That's the
right.
Rumor Time way.
That's right.
So we want to thank again Naomi and Keith for sharing their story, their journey, and their story with us, and we look forward to individuals checking out our course.
Yes.
How to check back into your relationship. We look forward to you all reaching out to us so that you too can experience what Naomi and Keith are experiencing in their relationship. It is not just only Keith and Naomi who can have these experiences.
Correct.
You too can have it if you put the work in. So we want to thank you. And again, go to www.everypeacematters.com and you will find information on the courses that we do offer. Thank you all for coming, and we will see you on the 20. When is the next show?
27th.
27th, February 27th, where we have, I believe we're going to have a family, an entire family who are using the Rumor Time process and how it's transforming their lives as well.
Beautiful.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank y'all so much for having us.
Thank you, Keith. Thank you, Naomi. We appreciate
Very
you.
welcome. It's been a pleasure.
Love you all.
Love you too.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Choose to only think of thoughts. I choose to only think right thoughts. I choose to only think right thoughts. Rumor Time reflects. When my mind is upset, I can change my mindset. Not be thrown offset. Rumor Time.
The Rumor Time process, and I came across this quote: behind every behavior is a belief.
Whatever setting you go to, whether you're at church, whether you're at school, whether you may be having
I was
an issue
able
at home.
to analyze a little bit more.
Bringing about real positive
in order
changes.
for me to be effective, I have to be reflective. And this training
I gather an appreciation for reflecting. And I
Take it from just something that's inside to getting it in a tangible form, getting it out from.
Fulfilling and rewarding to see the kids who coming and they sincerely growth in them. They became more reflective in their thinking, to see children grow and not just see but to be a part of it.
What I have learned in camp about Rumor Time is that it's a process for solving problems we face in our lives.
A lot of my stress, and then I begin to enjoy and spend time on the things that really make me happy.
I recommend this training to all age, from kindergarten.
Before you do that thing that you'll regret, or say that thing.
If you breathe and think, you should have this training.
I would recommend this to everyone.